The air crackled with tension. You could practically taste the expectation. Judge Henderson, stern-faced and regal in her black robe, surveyed the courtroom. It was your typical federal case, filled with lawyers in expensive suits and enough jargon to make your head spin. The case? Oh, just a minor disagreement over, a few $billion. The plaintiff's lawyer, a man who looked like he hadn't seen a carb since the Carter administration, droned on about fiduciary responsibility and negligence. The defendant's team, a group that resembled a casting call for Wall Street: The Next Generation, scribbled furiously, their faces betraying a mixture of boredom and smug confidence. It was all very official, very serious, and very, very boring, that is, until she walked in. A hush fell over the room. Everyone turned to stare as a woman, draped in a colorful shawl, strode confidently down the aisle. Her silver hair was pulled back, revealing piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through everyone. This wasn't some high-powered attorney here to shake things up. This was Madame Evangeline, the psychic to the stars, and she was about to turn this courtroom into her own personal stage. Madame Evangeline, ignoring the bailiff's sputtering protests, stopped in front of the judge's bench. With a theatrical flourish, she pulled a shiny penny from her pocket and placed it on the table with a resounding clang. The silence was deafening. Even the lawyers, usually masters of verbal sparring, seemed speechless. This, friends, was about to get interesting. Billions, Madame Evangeline boomed, her voice echoing through the stunned courtroom. Billions spent fighting corruption, chasing shadows, and for what? This charade? The judge, clearly flustered, sputtered, "Madame, this court will not tolerate..." But Madame Evangeline wasn't finished. "You call this justice?" she challenged, her eyes blazing. "While outside these walls, people struggle, children go hungry, the sick can't afford care." She pointed to the penny. "This is all that matters in the eyes of the law. Money talks, but justice, it seems, is silent." "The law," Madame Evangeline declared, her voice ringing with conviction, "should be blind. It shouldn't matter if you have a trust fund or food stamps. Justice should be for everyone, not just those who can afford it." She pointed at the lawyers, their expensive suits suddenly seeming like costumes in a play about greed. "You argue about contracts, loopholes, and technicalities," she accused. "But where is the justice for the single mother evicted from her home? Where is the justice for the family crushed by medical debt?" Her words cut through the legal jargon, laying bare a simple truth. The law, too often, was a game rigged against the ordinary person. Madame Evangeline wasn't done. She painted a picture of everyday injustice. The family forced to choose between rent and medicine, the young man trapped by predatory loans, the elderly woman losing her savings to scams. She spoke of communities ravaged by pollution, of workers exploited by their employers. "These are the real victims," she stated, her voice filled with sorrow. Not corporations squabbling over profits, but ordinary people denied basic dignity and fairness. The courtroom, usually a place of sterile detachment, felt heavy with the weight of her words. This wasn't about legal theory anymore, it was about real lives, real struggles. Section 6. A penny for your thoughts, the true cost of justice. Madame Evangeline picked up the penny. "This," she proclaimed, holding it up for all to see, "represents the value you place on justice for the poor. A single penny against billions." She let the penny fall back onto the table, the sound echoing in the silent courtroom. "You have forgotten," she said, her voice softer now, "that the law is not about money but about people. It's about protecting the vulnerable, upholding the rights of all, not just the privileged few." Her words hung in the air, a stark reminder of the ideals the legal system claimed to uphold, but too often failed to deliver. Section 7. Echoes of discontent. The psychic's words resonate. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. The lawyers, for once, seemed unsure of what to do. The judge, her composure shaken, simply stared at Madame Evangeline. Even the bailiff, usually a stickler for decorum, seemed captivated by the psychic's words. For a brief moment, the usual barriers were gone. Everyone in that room, the judge, the lawyers, the spectators, felt the raw power of Madame Evangeline's message. It was a message that resonated far beyond the polished wood and marble of the courtroom. It spoke to a deep-seated frustration with a system that too often seemed rigged against the ordinary person. Section 8. Can the system change? A glimmer of hope? Whether Madame Evangeline's outburst would change anything remained to be seen. Perhaps in the cold light of day, it would be dismissed as the rantings of an eccentric. But something had shifted in that courtroom. A seed of doubt had been planted. Maybe, just maybe, her words would linger in the minds of those who wielded the law. Maybe they would think twice before siding with the powerful over the powerless. Maybe, just maybe, Madame Evangeline's penny had bought something more valuable than anyone realized. A moment of reflection, a spark of conscience. Section 9. The fight continues. Justice for all, not just a few. As Madame Evangeline was gently escorted out of the courtroom, a faint smile played on her lips. She knew that one dramatic gesture wouldn't magically fix a broken system. But it was a start. It was a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming power, a single voice could still be heard. And as the lawyers returned to their legal wrangling, and the judge tried to restore order, one couldn't help but feel that things might be a little different now. The fight for true justice, for a system that served all, not just a select few, had been reignited. And that, as Madame Evangeline would surely agree, was worth far more than $1 billion.